Hi Year 10, welcome to Biomes Lesson 8. Today we'll be looking at the positive and negative ways humans can impact the reef and looking at the key term, discuss. When we think about human impacts on the Great Barrier Reef, we automatically jump to the negative impacts because we assume that most of the things that humans do are bad, and that's true to a degree. But it's really important we look at both sides of the coin. We're going to start with negative, but we're also going to look at some positive human interactions as well. So, on this slide are 5 negative human interactions with the Great Barrier Reef. We call these anthropogenic interactions, and that just means related to human activity. The first interaction is pollution. We know that humans cause pollution. This can be intentional or inadvertent. We might deliberately cause pollution in order to mine around the reef, or it might be because there is a shipping disaster, such as the Shenandoah one, which happened in 2010. Human-induced climate change is also a negative interaction, and we've talked about this a lot already. It leads to things like coral bleaching, loss of biodiversity, increased ocean acidification, etc. Farming practices, we've also talked about the idea of banana plantations and sugarcane crops, which use fertilizers and pesticides, which then run off into the reef. These can cause crown of thorns starfish outbreaks and also change the nutrient levels of the water too. Tourist activity can be harmful, things like anchoring and sunscreen damage, as well as overfishing, be it for commercial fishing or for recreational fishing. All of these interactions can disrupt the equilibrium or the balance that exists within the ecosystem. What I'll ask you to do in a moment when you finish this video is to do some research on a few of these different interactions, and there are some links on Schoolbox to help you get started. Like I said, we also need to look at the positive interactions, because not everything humans do is bad. Sometimes we try and mitigate some of the damage we're doing and work to preserve and protect the reef as well. One of the biggest positive interactions that exists on the reef is government action. The government creates groups who then undertake reports and research to work towards protecting the reef for the future. One of the most important plans the government has created is the Reef 2050 plan through the Great Barrier Reef Marine Park Authority and the Reef Trust. That helps to establish strict rules around zoning and what can and can't be done in different parts of the reef. There's a web link here that's also on Schoolbox I'd like you to click on to read more about the Reef 2050 plan. A second positive interaction is technological innovations and advancements. As people, we come up with really great scientific discoveries. Lots of these can work towards repairing damage we may have done to the reef. Technology like the Ranger bot or the Cot bot that work to destroy the crown of thorns starfish are really helpful human interactions that we have with the reef. Other examples are things like the Eye on the Reef app, which gets tourists to share their pictures to an app so that scientists can access a wider variety of data. And acoustic enrichment, which is about playing sounds of healthy reefs, be it fish and other animals, to try and encourage other fish and other species to come back to the reef, which is a very new technology, which is looking like it's going to have really positive impacts. Other positive human interactions include NGOs, non-government organisations, such as the World Wildlife Fund and the World Heritage Organisation, working to formulate policies and raise public awareness for the reef. Universities such as QUT study the reef and put money and time into helping protect the reef. And then we have our ATSI, Aboriginal Torres Strait Islander approaches, who also are working towards protecting the reef through traditional management methods. All of these are positive human impacts. What I'd like you to do is spend some time researching further both positive and negative human interactions, and there are some links on Schoolbox I'm going to show you to help you get started. Here's our Schoolbox page. If you scroll down and click on Sustainable Biomes, it will open a new tab. On the Sustainable Biomes tab, I've been populating it with lots of helpful resources for you. All of these fact sheets here are different management strategies that are positive human interactions on the reef. There's also a few videos to watch, and then links to lots of different articles and websites to help you look at both positive and negative human interactions on the reef. You need to choose a couple positive and a couple negative and find some detailed information on each one. There's things here around the ship grounding, the Ranger bot, coral bleaching, sunscreen impacts on the Great Barrier Reef. This YouTube channel is really good. There's lots of short clips around lots of different issues. And you need to do some of your own research to create enough information to answer a longer response question. In a moment, I'm going to talk you through the key term, but please make sure you do some of this research because the more research you do, the better your answer to today's question will be. Today, you're going to be asked to attempt one question on your Biomes worksheet, just one. But I want you to put some real time and consideration into the answer because it is a slightly more difficult key term than what you've done so far. The key term today is discuss. Discuss means to provide points for and against, the advantages and disadvantages. And it's really important you have that definition in your head because if you're asked to discuss and you don't provide positives and negatives, then you aren't answering the question properly and won't be able to gain those full marks. So the question might be, discuss human impacts on the Great Barrier Reef. Now that means you need to provide positive human impacts on the reef and negative human impacts on the reef, which is exactly what we've been talking about this lesson. By doing that research that I've just mentioned, you'll be able to have some good stats and information to support why an action might be negative or why an action might be positive. On this slide are some sentence starters and connecting words to help you write that response. Like I said, it is only one question today, but I do expect you to write longer because discuss is a longer and more complex key term. I'm talking an 8-mark question, about 22 lines, which is probably close to a page. You really need to make sure you're attempting to hit that full word count because that's how you will gain those full marks. If you don't feel like you're able to write that much, it means you haven't done enough research and you need to go back to Schoolbox and click on some of those links to find some more detail to support your answer. Please make sure when you've completed the question, you submit done to Schoolbox so that I know I can go and check your work. So the question today is question 10 on your Biomes worksheet. Please make sure you try and hit that word count. If you don't, I might ask you to resubmit before I send you those sample answers. See you next lesson.